request will get a chance to speak after the presentation. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 2 minutes.
Let's sign up for the general, because it's for the meetings. Okay.
Everything is
Case comments, does he have nobody?
Everybody's for the general. Okay.
Do you have any general comment? No.
All right, tonight, the planning commission will hear a request to rezone the property located at Billsbrook Road with the tax map number of 425-12-00-185 and 425-12-00-293 from the low density suburban residential.
We'll let you know when we can hear you.
Okay. Any better?
No.
It is on. I don't know.
Oh, look up top, look up top.
Okay.
If you would, please repeat the tax number, the number.
Sure. 425-0-12-00-185 and 425-12-00-298.
And I'm sorry, this is out of order, but that was like about 10% better.
It's not loud enough.
I'll
yet?
try to speak up.
Thank you very much.
So we are from low density suburban residential to RSL zoning district and the community commercial zoning district to Marsh Walk Village, PD -201, Plan Development Zoning District. Staff, Kristen Crane will do a PowerPoint presentation.
All right. And if I could just ask everyone to just please be really quiet, if you're speaking out of order and maybe just yelling and things like that. I'll try to speak up, but just try to maintain stability. I'll just go through kind of what a plan development is, so everybody's on the same page with that. It's a specific development plan, and once it's approved, it has its own unique set of zoning regulations. And anything that's apart from what's in the approval would have to go to town council for obtaining. So any major changes to what is approved would still have to go to town council. And the purpose of it is to encourage innovative site planning, to allow for a little more flexibility than would be allowed if it followed a strict application of our zoning ordinance as it is with individual lots. So there are variances that can be applied for, such as setbacks, lot size, things like that, uses, and those are the things that allow for a little more flexibility in design. So that's the whole point of a plan development, and we already have a few in the town. I just started to point those out so you can kind of get an idea. The James On Soccer Club is an existing plan development, so the soccer fields, the residential behind it, with the smaller lots, and then the existing residential with the larger lots that are on water. That's Oyster Point. Goodwill and the offices around there is a plan development. The preserve at Dills Bluff, right across the street over here, was a plan development we did in 2014-15, and then the Harbor Creek condos on Harbor View Road, that's also an existing plan development. So there are 9 steps that are laid out by state law. That's what we adopted in our ordinances, and this is kind of how this process started. We had a pre-app for the applicant in February. In April, we came in front of the planning commission, the applicant came and presented the conceptual PD plan. He's required to do at least one community workshop, so those were three that he did, and how many people attended those. The draft submittal was in June. And then the application was right after that. We submitted comments and which were incorporated, and then it came back into the document that you see right now, that's number 7. And then next would be a public hearing at town council, tentatively in September, and then that would be a first reading, and then there'd be a second reading in October. For approval for the actual rezoning. So the James Island Public Service District owns these 2 properties. Those are the tax map numbers in case anybody needs them right up there. They are zoned RSL and CC, which is community commercial, is a smaller one. RSL limited to be suburban residential, which is the larger one. And they don't have an address yet, so. And the I think everyone knows where it is, but it's located at near the corner of Bill's Bluffing Camp. They're wooded, there's no structures on it right now, and they're adjacent to White House Plantation, Camp Center Villas, which are existing neighborhoods, and then the existing shopping center. And the applicant seeking to rezone to create flexibility in design and to create a mixed-use community that maintains the natural aesthetic and character of James Island. And beautiful aerial. The 2 wooded properties right in the middle of the screen. The bigger one is the residential zone one, and the smaller one is community commercial right now. This is what we have. Kind of a mixed bag over there. All the gray of the city of Austin. All the colors are in the town. Red is commercial, brown is RSM, which is a little bit more higher density, 4 units per acre versus the 3, which is yellow, which is RSL. And then the blue is the planned development, the preserve at Dill's Bluff, that's across the street. And the pink is where we are right now, office residential. I'll just go through some pictures. This is probably everyone knows where it is, but anyways, this is Dill's Bluff looking north at the corner of the shopping center. On the left is with your back towards Smoky Oak, and then the inside of the property is looking north. The right is looking south. The left is the preserve at Dill's Bluff, and the right is a RSL zone property that's in White House Plantation. The boardwalk is a little bit further north. The left is the back of the shopping center near the cell tower. And the right is kind of the end of Encampment Circle. These are in White House Plantation. The left is the end of White House Boulevard. The right is the little strip of dirt road that connects White House and Hampshire. This is White House looking west on the left, and then there's another view. So some of the guidelines that have been requested in this document are listed up here. So the density that would be allowed with an RSL zoning district is 3 units per acre. So this document would is proposing 20 units per acre, which would be 3.07. Or 25, which would be 3.83 of the workforce units. That would be a little smaller. Village commercial, which would be the commercial part that's towards the front, would allow uses that are already allowed by right in the CC zoning district, with a few extra allowances for the sale of beer, wine, and liquor without a special exception. and pet services without a special exception. Although, kennel and daycare and boarding, automotive sales and gun shops would be not allowed. There'd be at least 20% of open space. The lot sizes would be smaller because they would be attached versus detached. And the setbacks, same thing, because of the flexibility of the design, there would be an increase of building cover. Because of the nature of it, attached versus detached. So there are 3 criteria that are mandated by state law that you would have to meet in order to be approved to be rezoned to the PD districts, and these are listed up here. I can read them, but the first one is the development plan complies with the standards contained in this article. And the response is that the proposed plan development zoning district complies with the requirements of the ZELDAR. Additionally, the proposed density is equal to the density that's allowed by the current zoning district, and the flexible lot standards proposed will allow for greater flexibility in site design. The second one is it's consistent with the comprehensive plan and other adopted policy documents. The response is that the plan development is consistent with the intent of the comp plan. Future land use categories which state that incentive to retain the suburban character of the area, such as site planning guidelines and conservation design, should be provided in the zoning ordinance to preserve open space and protect natural and historic features. And that's from the residential category. And in the commercial category, it states to allow diverse retail and service uses that serve the residential population of the island and that do not negatively impact the surrounding community. And the third criteria is the town and other agencies will be able to provide their public services, facilities, and programs to serve the development proposed at the time the property is developed. And the response is that the applicant has included in the proposed PD document letters from service providers stating that they will be able to adequately serve the proposed development. These are 4 recommended conditions if you choose to. The first one would be that the applicant must provide an updated letter of coordination from DNEC OCRM as part of the land disturbance permitting before any zoning permits to be issued. The second one is provide a letter of coordination from DOT. And the third one is to remove the allowance for beer, wine, and alcohol sales without the need for a special exception. And the fourth one would be to remove the sentence that allows slab on grade and prohibit the slab on grade construction in the residential area.
Do any commissioners have questions?
Yes, this is Deb Bidwell, and I have a question. If you could please clarify the difference between the setback in a residential versus the setback in this proposed development.
Yes. So RSL setbacks are typically would be a 1/3 acre lot, so 14,520 square feet. And then the setbacks are 25 feet in front, 10 on the sides, and 15 in the back. And so that would be detached, because attached is not allowed in RSL. So these would be 10 in the front versus 25, 10 in the rear versus 15, and 3 on the side units versus 10.
Thank you.
No,
How much of the 6.52 acres is zone commercial? Present.
One, 1.64 acres. 25%.
And how many residential units would be included in this? PUD?
20.
20.
20 additional detached. If it was workforce, it could be 25, but that would be the max.
So they would have the option of either 20 or 25, depending on the type of construction.
Right.
The preserve at Dills Bluff across the road, that was 10 acres. So,
Yes, and they put 30 homes there, so that's
yes.
pretty per.
I seem to remember that the preserve paid for some sidewalks. Is this pipe going to do something comparable?
Right, I think the preserve actually only has sidewalks on one side of the road.
I think it was on the others.
So this one is proposed to have sidewalks on both sides of the interior road and connectivity from the existing shopping center and Dills Bluff Road.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Deb Bidwell again. Could you please clarify what proportion of the 6.52 acres is in a flood zone? None of it is in a wetland, I realize, but
No, there's no CRN area. Let's see. Oh, now, okay, hold on. Don't. I see it, but I don't know that percentage.
yeah, just a, ballpark is great. Okay,
Back,
What percent?
about 20.
So it's in the back area where the circle is. Back that way and then kind of through the road and then back towards the front where that pond is.
Mhm.
Is in an 80-11. The other is all the rest of the next.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak? Would the applicant like to speak? You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no good. Very good. Kyle Taylor, developer of the Worker Engineer on the project, happy to be with you. I know my time's short, so I'm gonna try and talk fast, but happy to answer any questions after. One first thing, staff for their time. This has been an extensive PD. The document has, I believe, everyone hopefully got a hard copy. Over 200 pages. We've been working at this since the early part of the year through 3 community workshops. We last came before this planning commission maybe 3 months ago for a planning commission workshop, and really a lot of effort producing, but also reviewing. So I want to thank staff for their time. Thank you guys for your time and the officials for their time coming up. So, very brief presentation. We're going to see if I can do a 3D tour. So what we're going to maybe try and do is plug in the laptop, Kristen, and I'm going to grab my iPad. So I'll talk over the camera. The iPad's going to be more for you guys, and the screen hopefully is going to be more for the audience here, if you'll bear with me. So I'm going to let you guys hang on to this. We're going to get on the screen, but what we've got here is a 3D tour of the area, and we've got 5 panoramas. So I'm going to let you guys kind of go through. So there's 5 clicks, so 4 of them are for the commercial. Yeah, you just kind of swing around a little bit and zoom in and out. But what you got, there's a 3D tour. I recognize looking on paper, especially especially the plan view, can be difficult to really see what we're doing. I think everyone understands the high level scope. Kristen did a great job summarizing, but again, it's 6.52 acres total, currently zoned commercial up front near Bill's Bluff, residential for the back. The plan is to rezone into a comprehensive plan development that's intended to be cohesive, a walkable area for the residents, both as part of this plan development with the nearby residents to enjoy. With the commercial up front, we see this being a mixed use retail, some coffee, some small restaurant, local businesses to support the local community. It's approximately 19,200 gross square feet. So we started with a little bit more, and through the process of the community workshops, we reduced our parking area. We thereby had to reduce some of the building area and added pond area to take care of the stormwater management, which was really, there was a list of concerns we worked through. We feel like we've done an outstanding job. Stormwater has been kind of that number one, making sure that we take care of that. And honestly, I think we've done maybe too good of a job. We started to get comments on maybe reducing some of the pond, but we want to make sure that we take care of this stormwater concern. So from a 3D tour perspective, we'll be able to
I can't.
plug in. Yeah, so let me see if I can plug in the rest of us here.
Jim, I don't understand what's going on.
Sir, this is the time for the applicant to speak, and then you'll have your opportunity. Hey,
Thank you very much. Yeah, we've got it going. Just give it 1 second. Again, this screen is more for the audience, the public to tune in, so. Bear with us.
You can see.
I know the lighting may not be outstanding in here, but. I'm happy to answer any further questions if it's not completely visible. Commissioner, are you able to use the iPad?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I recognize my time is short and I'm happy to answer any questions, but from a 3D tour perspective, this is the vision of this plan development. Commercial up front, residential the back. We've gone through coordination on various items, so the architecture, working to take care of the trees, preserve as many of the trees as possible, site layout. And we think we have an outstanding product. I'm just going to roll through these, but I'm happy to go back to any of them as you like. This is panorama number 1. And I'm happy to see it. This is really for the public. Honestly, you guys are able to see all 5. I just got to reconnect to the internet. But I'm happy to see it as part of that.
I mean, that's pretty much, you know,
right.
it's very much like the place over there. In Mount Pleasant.
It's
almost like it's the same architects. I ate in a restaurant that looks like that in Mount Pleasant.
kind of beachy looking.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, so we got panorama number 2. Here's number 3. So again, in the commercial site, this is the middle area. Early on in the community workshops, we were thinking maybe this would be more of a gathering space, which it still could be. But the vision has kind of morphed more into making this a stormwater sponge. We've got several grand trees here in the middle that we're preserving. One of them is actually graded in D, which would mean it's actually recommended for removal, but we're getting into the details. But we're still in the mode to keep it as we're able to plan around it, unless this really tells us otherwise. But it's just kind of panning around the middle of the commercial development. We've got the 3rd building in the back here, which is meant to be a little bit less retail, maybe a little bit more office, medical office, and maybe a small coffee shop of some sort could go here because we want to take advantage of the pond and the views and that sort of thing there in the corner of the commercial lot. So I think in number 3, number 4, again, just a little more up close. Then we just have one of the residential. This is in the middle of the development, so this would be the attached product, or at least an example of what you may anticipate. These would be the 30-foot wide units. When we were coordinating with neighbors and just others, affordability kept coming up as a key buzzword. Which are taking us to the direction of doing not only attached, but we have the 30-foot wide option, which proposes 20 dwelling units. And the development in total actually can afford more than 20, but we've got this option at 20, and then the 25 dwelling unit would simply be making them a little bit skinnier. There would be a 2-car garage, at least most of them would be a 2-car garage, and they have a much lower price point. It's very much wider. So this again is just to give you a little idea on what the street would look like and the attached dwelling unit. So. Which the workshops actually went on for about an hour, so I can certainly go on, but with that, I'll yield my time and thank you guys for your time and happy to answer any questions.
Do we have some questions?
Usually they kind of look down here, your way. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of the request? Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay.
1, 2.
Please state your name and your address for the record.
Dave Schaefer with the JIPSD for the property owner. I have an email from Commissioner Clifford. She couldn't be here tonight. Her mother is at the cardiologist, and she wanted to express that she's writing in support of the rezoning property, RSL and CC zoning districts to the PD 201. This development fits the footprint of the neighborhood and surrounding community. It will be afforded all of the protections of the fire department, public safety, and public service district, and you have the letters of coordination in the packet. Prospective fire has done due diligence in the land surveys, marine space conservation. It was in compliance with the state, local, and federal guidelines regarding wetlands. He would also be bringing commerce to James Island and storefronts. Thankfully, we know what the applicant wants to do with the commercial portion of this land, and not something like a hotel, which would not be a good fit in our opinion. The sale of this property will help offset the cost of maintenance and repairs for the JIPSD headquarters on Signal Point Road, which will help keep taxes lower because the customers of the JIPSD will not have to pay for the much needed repairs. The original thought was to move the JIPSD headquarters, solid waste trucks, wastewater trucks, mechanics, etc., to the same land, which would have been more disruptive to the surrounding community. The developer has been forthcoming with his vision for the space, which means we know exactly what to expect for this project. And she gives her thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Betty Norman.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm speaking in support as a born Charlestonian. Began my life at Roper Hospital 72 years ago. I worked many years in home health, so I'm very familiar with the entire Tri-County area and have seen it change over the 30 years I was a complete pathologist. For the past 7 years, I've been a realtor. It's my second career. And I'm speaking in support because I am seeing firsthand how so many people who want to make this their home can no longer afford to buy a place. Affordability is a major problem in this entire area. People are now moving all the way to Walterboro and beyond to try to find a place to live. This project in such a beautiful area as James Island, and I've lived in the town of James Island for the last 14 years, and I'm proud to be a citizen of the town. This project being built the way it is provides green space for the community, not necessarily for the person so much in a particular townhome, But by sharing walls and upkeep, this will be affordable to the people that we need to live here. We need people who can work in the area. Right now, people who, nurses, have to travel 2 hours sometimes to get to their job. That's not gonna work. We're already having staffing shortages all over the place. So I am in support for that. I mean, we don't like change, but I do like to see a project that does look nice. It's gonna add a few cars, but you know what? When I moved to James Island 14 years ago, there weren't as many cars then. People welcomed me. There've been a lot of developments that have happened since then, and somehow we all still managed to live. So I'm not one to say that we shouldn't allow. I don't think that was my time. Thank you.
Sam.
Thank you, thank you.
Let's see, and then we have Ruth, last name Ruth. Fort Sumter Drive. And support it.
And support.
Support.
Yeah, I just think I was speaking to this, so, and my name is, it's Bruce, I live on 1034 Sumter Drive, and I'm here for support of the project. We've lived, at that address for 13 years, and, like, was stated before, we've seen a lot of growth in the area, and, I think this is a first-class project. I think it's going to bring a lot of value to the, community and to the surrounding area as well. So I'm just here for supporting the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mindy Snyder.
My name is Mindy Snyder, and I live at 1020 Minnesota Drive, White House Plantation. Everybody hear me? Yeah. This is a bad idea. And you know it is bad. Because.
Please
now,
address
let's say,
the,
okay.
address the.
Okay, so if we take, it's say 6.5 acres, now visualize 6.5 acres of this property, and we are going to. Minus the setbacks, minus the parking lot that you're gonna put there. And the how, I mean, what we see and what we see here looks good on paper. But in reality, you know that this is a bad idea. You're making it look good, but in reality, you know that it's not a good idea. And like the trees, how many trees are you gonna cut down? I've walked that property, and in my opinion, this is not a quality property to do what you want to do, what you're planning to do, or what you plan to do. This is not a quality property. That's why James Island hasn't been able to get rid of it before. This has been sitting there for a long time. And you got that pond on one side, and I look, it's just not quality property for the kind of project you want to put there. And that is the end of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Luby.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I'm James Lindy. I live at 1330 White House Boulevard with the mic up. The White House Plantation. The development guidelines for the Marsh Walk Village Planning Development in the town of James Island, June 14, 2023. Appendix A. Pedestrian cut through not illustrated on page 19 of area summary. Illustrated on pages 20, 22, and the pedestrian sidewalk access at White House Plantation. Also on pages 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. I'm very upset. I thought we had this clear that it's gonna be a fence there. And now we have a through walkway with pedestrians. I'm not for passage of construction, workers, or vehicles, or a cut through for traffic in the future. Why is this pedestrian cut through in the general plan? What purpose does it serve? I'm here to support the friends and neighbors that signed the support petitions that were distributed to various locations in the past 3 months. They do not support the 6.52 acre development proposed by KT Properties. Many volunteers were working hard to collect 331 signatures, with more on the way. Am I done?
Yeah, that's about it, Mr. Lee.
No,
Thank you.
go,
Thank you.
Okay.
go on.
So these are the petitions. All 332.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have Fred Brown. I believe that's Fred.
Takes me a little while to move.
What your name and address?
Brown. And I live at 2084 Walkthrough Hall Road in Charleston, which is in River Terrace. And I own the property that is located next to this project, which is Camp Smelly Village. We have approximately 25, 30 buildings in there that I own, and I believe keep up well. My problem with this project is that the only advantage that you have in switching this is the James Island Public Service District is going to make some money. That's why he had a day saying that we can do it. That's the only reason that's the advantage. What we have right now in that shopping center isn't totally rented at time. We already have 2 restaurants there. The owner wants to bring more people to this center of the island. All of us have fought years to try to make the corridor Folly Road, not Dill's Bluff Road. And this is going to make the corridor straight out from Folly Beach to Fort Johnson to this and on. And it just, from a traffic standpoint, will never work. And number 2, we talk about the drainage. If you look at that project, every bit of that drainage drains to the corner of White House Plantation down in the corner. It won't flood my area, but it'll certainly flood White House. And they've had problems down there many years ago, which I think has been corrected. But the problem is that the drainage, if you look at that plan and study it, it's vague, okay? So you really got to read the letter and everything else connected with it in order to understand what's going on. Let me say one other thing. I did provide a letter to y'all stating most of the items which I have just said. But my main concern, or one of my main concerns, is that there's a building that will be placed within 20 feet of my property, and the back of it will face the property. Delivery service and all the other items in there are just tremendous, and my people shouldn't be subjected to garbage collection and dump trucks and everything else coming back to the back.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. That's about time. Catherine Moore.
Thank you to everyone for the opportunity to speak at the meeting. As you can tell, there's some very big opinions in the room. And I think development is something we have to live with. There's no way around it, but let's do it responsibly. I think the development plan shows excellent planning skills. There's a lot of attention to detail. A lot has gone into this. I see huge potential. But I don't need another retail space when so much retail space all over the island across all of the areas has open availability. It doesn't make sense. It's not what we need. And to be part of this neighborhood, which I would think you would want to be because it's perfect. Why would you not do something that adds value to the community, that listens to what we want? So that's all I'm gonna ask. I think we can do that.
Thank you. John Peters.
My name is John Peters, 1301 Hampshire Road, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412. I have expressed concern for the 6.52 acres base of the White House plantation under a proposed development along Hills Bluff Road. I have submitted an additional public comment and a petition signed by 562 neighbors and here on James Island. And others who care about the environment. We should have received that already, sent it a week ago. I can tell you, this petition continues to grow. My public comment concerns and resolutions outlined are of my own due diligence. I have discovered concerning information of which should warrant further investigation for the safety and security and well-being of James Island and its residents. The flooding, the 6.52 acres of stormwater will be collected in impervious surfaces and will corral water into runoff ponds, of which will overflow and travel through White House Plantation and the Camp Center villas into the waterway. This is 2/3 of this land will be impervious and 1/3 of it is in flooding zone. The traffic, those who live here know that from experience of James Island is already congested. Adding more homes and businesses adds more traffic to that congestion. An estimated 125 vehicles, 1.5 per home, and then 95 parking spaces on an average if it is full, not including any special events of whoever's owning or renting those properties for the businesses. Green space proposal. James Island needs more green space, and much needed park or other green space should be established in the heart of James Island. This is the heart of James Island. We are in the heart of James Island. The developer, Mr. Taylor, has said it himself. The planning, this land is developed and should be developed consistently with neighboring properties. This proposed development is not conforming to its neighboring properties. That is identified in my public comment as well. When there is insufficient space between neighbors, there is no privacy and no place for children to play. Recommendations, a compromising solutions for a better way to improve James Island is identified in my public comment. How does this development promote and foster the well-being of James Island and its residents? It does not. And
Thank you, Mr. Peters. That's about.
And I want to mention that anybody in this room has a political duty to say that they are for this developer. They should identify, so like the Ruth Taylor found that they're sitting in the front row here. So you guys need to identify that you have an interest in this development, and you have not. You do. When you have, they have been in contact with the Taylor family. They have a duty to speak up and say your support for a reason.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Thank you.
Dan Bowles.
When I'm sitting in y'all's chairs and the house is packed like this, it's always a fun time to see you feel everything. And I appreciate the spirited comments, but I would remind everybody that we're all neighbors. Let's talk to each other like neighbors. I'm here just to say that the people I've talked to are not in favor of this as proposed. They've worked hard at it. House reached out to us. There's definitely a lot of good, smart folks that have put a lot of time into this, but the residents don't seem to want it. And when I'm sitting up there and I see all these folks, I listen. So that's what I'm here to ask. Thank you.
Carl Kennedy.
I'm not really afraid of the microphone, as you can see. I am a newbie here, 2 years. 10 minutes for my grandkids, that's what brought me here. Carl Kennedy, 1426 Westford Sound Drive. The biggest thing I can see is that the congestion.
I'm sorry.
Well,
You know, you're really spoken.
okay, good. Yeah, step on that. The congestion, Dill's Bluff is still kind of a haven for me. Getting to downtown or getting away from Folly Road And when I see that development going up and adding, somebody mentioned the number of cars, I'm going, oh my goodness. How am I gonna get out onto Harbor View Drive? And it's still, it's a tough thing there. When I look at kids, parents waiting at the James Island Center at 4 o'clock in the morning to get their kids into gymnastics class. We need other things here. So could we get a pool? Could we get a recreational center? Another one. More important things than a crowded development I saw 10 feet from people next door. Who wants to live like that? Thank you.
Ken Goodwin. Goblin, okay, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Godwin.
I live in 950 Valley Forge Drive, White House Plantations. I've been there for 50 years. Seen a lot of changes to this island. We're overbuilt. We don't have the road structure. We are practically gridlocked on Folly Road these days. You try to go out around noontime, lunchtime, you're not going very fast. You're going very slow. This development's going to put a lot of people, a lot of cars, a lot of trucks that service that area. And the businesses, we see businesses on Camp Road that have tractor trailer trucks that come to make deliveries. It's just too much, folks. We don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey Brown.
Thank you, Audrey Brown. I own and live at 1327 Hermitage Avenue in White House Plantation. And the density of this proposal is going to have negative impacts on the flooding, on the drainage, on the traffic of the area, and it's unnecessary. We already have commercial units, commercial buildings on the island that are empty, that could be used. When we bring in new developments, affordable housing gets touted frequently, and it just as frequently is nothing but lip service. When you're bringing in units that are going to undoubtedly start at $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 as a starting point, that is not affordable housing. So the negative impact that this is going to bring vastly outweighs the purported benefits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lynette Lindsay. I'm not pronouncing that correct.
Hi, Lynette Hensey, I live at 1301 Hampshire Road. I'm opposed, very much opposed by it.
Thank you.
Scott Edwards.
Scott Edwards, 1301 White House Boulevard. My property is the adjacent to the end of the cul-de-sac there, proposed cul-de-sac. My biggest concern is with the storm drain, water runoff, however they're gonna manage this. I sent an email to some members of the town council, James Island PSD, and the developer earlier this week. I would like to present to you some photos of my yard when there's no hurricane. This is just from rains that have come through. There's several other pictures in there, and you can see that my concern is there's a retention pond there behind Camp Road, which is not utilized by the rain properly. And the developer has stated that all of the water is going to flow into our neighborhood. So I can, as a personal opposition of this, I'm concerned that my property value will definitely go down. I could potentially have flooding inside of the house, and then I would have destroyed property. And I don't think that, as others have said, that the location is ready to be developed in such a manner.
Yes.
Wendy Teal.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Teal. I'm located at 1290 Hampshire Road. I am in opposition to the rezoning of the property from low density. I feel the pressure on the remaining green space is too heavy. The downstream consequences for other neighborhood flooding is a real concern. The increased infrastructure traffic on Dills Bluff Road is also a major concern. The traffic is just, I can understand low density subdivision. I don't understand the business proposal. We have a lot of open area for business already, and we have a mall right next door that's not full with a huge parking lot. So we're taking green space that can absorb water and help the community and turning it into a large parking lot. Thank you.
And Judy Upton.
Hi, I'm Judy Upton, 1540 Clark Sound Circle, Charleston. I live in Bacon Farms. I was at a grocery store recently and I saw a car and the bumper sticker said Charleston, we full. And it could be the same for James Island. This is such a bad idea. For one thing, why in the world do we keep destroying nature? We don't need this. We have so many unoccupied buildings. We do not need any more parking lots. We don't need, yes, we do need fair housing, but come on. They're not going to, this is not going to be low income housing they're building. Even if they were building low income housing, it wouldn't be in this area. So I'm totally opposed to anything about this idea. And I think it would just be more flooding and more harm to our area and more traffic.
Thank you. Did the applicant want to address any of those issues? We may have a few questions for you.
Sure. So that I'm clear, too, will there be some Q&A with us, or is this just a response?
Yeah, you can respond to the issues that were brought up, and then we have some questions.
Okay, well, just at the top, I'd say we've had 3 community workshops, a few people here I do recognize, and we've engaged in some really good faith, I think, hopefully, some good faith discussions. I'm happy to take those items. I can't address all of those in a 2-minute talk back, but I'm happy to take those before we go. I don't appreciate you accusing someone of having an interest in property.
I do.
You don't know who I'm
not.
I know your mother's here. And
Please address the commission.
Thank you.
We can't, listen.
So I'm happy to have some good faith
orderly.
discussion. I recognize this wouldn't be a development project if there weren't some hot opinions and a few neighbors that want to park, build right next to them. But I'm happy to engage in those discussions. What I say about stormwater, because really stormwater is one of the biggest ones. I mean, from the get-go, we want to say as many trees, there's 39 grand oaks, so a few of those are possibly accepted as they go, depending on where they come up from the base, and maybe consider 2 trees. Trying to save as many trees, but stormwater's been from the get-go, we want to make sure we take care of that, right? Density, we're below the allocated density that we're allowed to do with stormwater. So I'm actually here to say that initially, and to give a quick stormwater run through, stormwater analysis based on what the topography does today. The site generates runoff today. There's also runoff from adjacent properties. The Camp Road villas with the pond that can't always tell the pond, but generates runoff. So stormwater analysis is intended to meet those pre-development rates and really reduce those pre-development rates. And I don't want to get into a whole deal about stormwater analysis here, but what I'll tell you is we've been working around the clock to make sure we take care of it. There's a strong direction we've been able to do to take water in really two directions, so that we're not just putting all of our eggs in one basket. We're going above and beyond like nobody else would do for stormwater. So we feel very good with our stormwater approach. I've been doing this for over a decade. No problems with stormwater. And I'm happy to talk to them.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have a few questions for you. I think, did you have anything, Deb?
Do you want to start? So I do have a question about the metrics for stormwater management. And so you have a parcel of land, it's treed, and you can measure how much water it absorbs currently now, and those metrics are available. So will your development meet or exceed the absorbed water as currently met by the forested area?
Yes, so there's lots of different metrics in stormwater. You've got CFS, flow rate, 2-year, which 10-year, 25-year, 50-year, 100-year storms. County of James Island, actually, I believe it was 2020, they adopted higher storm precipitation numbers than any other place in the community. I don't know if you're aware of that. The 100-year storm is over 11 inches. So it's the highest stormwater regulations that we're going to be meeting. We've already done our analysis. We feel good about it. It's got to go through the whole process for town review, county review, that's the MS4, DHEC, OCRM, and who knows, maybe there'll be other reviews, but those are the big four stormwater reviews aside from utilities and everything else. So we will 100% be meeting those runoff rates. We've even done a downstream analysis that will be included in the report. The report's over 500 pages.
I understand. I was just saying nature-based water absorption, if that should be our standard, right? So you've got this parcel of land, it's absorbing water, the neighborhoods aren't flooding, so that's your standard. And you can measure it, and if you meet or exceed that, then you could convince people that, you know, if you're planting trees, if there's pervious surfaces, if there's water absorption rates that are at or exceeding what's already present, that might comfort people.
Yeah, and that's why on the commercial with the road, I don't know the town would entertain much as far as the surface goes. The roads are generally asphalt, but the commercial we see being pretty aggressive with pervious pavers. So these will be pervious pavers that allow for infiltration. Will meet the county requirement, which I believe is 0.3 inches per hour or so of infiltration. So we'll make sure that we include a joint specification that will allow that infiltration rate and retain that water. And we're with you. I mean, the report, the numbers say what they say. It's actually good soils out there. So there is a runoff that gets generated. It's not much, and that's why we're having to provide as much pond area, which we've gotten comments to try and reduce the pond area. It's 3 ponds, and we're working hard to meet those numbers, and we are meeting those numbers. So absolutely, we're getting aggressive on infiltration, and we'll be meeting those runoff rates for the siting and in the downstream analysis.
I noticed that 4 of the 5 residential buildings are in an AE11 zone. Will there be any fill to elevate the buildings?
So the site has pretty good topo. The top elevation for the commercial is about 16 down to about 8. The bottom of the ditch is about 6. So that's actually a lot of topo for a site. The buildings will not have much fill. There was a comment about maybe excluding slab on grade, which I'm happy to talk about. We're at the upper end of that flood zone, so a lot of the site is above the flood elevation, and those parts of the property that are at or below the flood elevation are right at that elevation. So you wouldn't expect us to be bringing in feet and feet of fill like we would be if we're in a flood zone further down.
But you would fill those areas and bring them up to a higher elevation.
Well, the building finished floor elevation will have to meet the town's standard. That's sort of the bottom line. How we meet it is up to the building department. We proposed doing an elevated slab for the buildings. We think that'd be an effective approach. And then outside of the building would be more of at grade, while the finished floor will be above. The bottom line, it does not require a lot of fill.
Now, wouldn't flood insurance require you that any building that has part of the flood, high-risk flood zone require that you elevate that first elevated floor to a level that they require?
The finished floor living space would have to be above the flood. Yeah, so you can accomplish that in a few ways. We've been trying to avoid doing fully elevated homes. If that's desired, then like maybe we're open to that, but fully elevated as in drive under, we've been trying to avoid just because we got comments back that maybe that wouldn't be desired. So, and really it's not, from our standpoint, it's not necessarily because we're right at the top of the flood zone. Some of the buildings are outside the flood zone. And and I'll even add to, as far as storage capacity in the flood zone, these ponds will be providing pretty tremendous storage capacity as well. So if you think about it right now, you've got this dirt, and we're going to be excavating down and it'll be open area in the form of a pond, providing some water storage.
The your affordability has been mentioned, and it's pricey to move to James Island. What type of a living space is this going to have? Is it going to be 3 bedrooms? How many square feet? And I don't expect you to come down out with a price right now, but a ballpark of some sort. Is it going to be 600,000? Is it going to be, what is it? Somebody said it was going to be a lot of money. How much money ballpark?
Well, across the street, there's 30 homes which are built in the PD across the street, up to 3,000 square feet. And those have been going north of over 700,000, maybe even make a day. I checked recently, right?
And
So,
that's why this is a plus, because it's going to be less, right?
and that's exactly, these will be smaller homes. The attached, just by virtue of being an attached product, not detached, would have a lower price point. So that's where the 30-foot attached products seem more favorable than a 30-foot detached product. We will also have tree save areas between some of those buildings. And then the workforce housing, instead of 30 feet, has the 26 on the ends and 20 in the middle. So those, especially in the middle, those could be 2 to 3 bedrooms. I'd hate to put anything that may change, but the middle ones, if they're 20 footers, maybe those would be 1,800 square feet if I were to throw out kind of the number. 26 foot wide units would be more. Those could get up to maybe a 4-bedroom. And if they're the 30-foot wide units, 30-foot wide units are pretty much a big single family home, right? They're pretty comparable.
And real estate values are really difficult to predict. What ballpark is somebody going to have to pay for 1,800, 3-bedroom, 2-bath?
I mean, I can definitely tell you the lower price point than across the street, maybe by a factor of 2. But I'd hate to peg a number just because the market.
And I understand.
So certainly with Zillow, you can just kind of see what comparable home would be. There's attached houses really along Village Bluff, actually, to be attached housing complexes. So you can start to kind of see what those square footages and price per square foot may yield.
The development guidelines indicate that there's 1.2 of opens, 1.2 acres of 1.8 acres of open space. Does that figure include the retention pond?
It does. So we did a calculation for total open space, which I believe is 28% of the property. We set a minimum of 20, which is maybe somewhat common, 15-20%. So we're currently at 28%. That includes the buffers. So that's just purely open space. It doesn't include the ponds, and then there was a separate calculation for net usable open space, so area that's not part of the ponds.
The houses that back onto the property are, how high up are they? How high are I
For the south.
to
To the south, I believe there's duplexes in the city.
no, the homes that are along the road there,
Single family.
the single family homes that back up to it. That are by they're right here. These houses here.
Encampment Court.
Well, yeah, yeah. They back up to the property. There's nothing. And how high are they up? I mean, are they in a flood zone? Are they required to be a certain height or? When I looked at them. How high are they?
They're like on a crawl space.
Yeah.
kind of.
It's high, it's about up to my chest and I'm sort of short, so I don't know. How high up is it? Maybe. I know.
My name is Ruby Cabesta, and I'm at the 1277 Hampshire Road. I am in the flood zone, and I'm at one of the highest ends of that area there. So, I am on a crawl space. It's not a very big one. It's I can't get underneath it, let's put it that way. Somebody skinny could probably get underneath it, but I'm totally opposed to it, because this will back right up to my property. Getting my two cents.
Yeah, but I guess in Encampment Court, and I can get you a street view image if we need to kind of assess the height, but.
I mean, I've walked the property, I've run the neighborhood. A number of times and things like that. I've been back there where the trees are. Your tree inventory is amazing. At the precision that you have with the health of those trees back there. And I've been back there and I can see you've been very precise and tried to do the right thing, I think.
But I'll add, as part of your question was in regards to buffers against Encampment Court, I believe the owner had a comment about it. We're providing a 25-foot buffer against Encampment Court for the commercial. Residential, actually, that development is a higher density than this development. It's in the city here, one duplexes. So there's no, per the current requirements, there's no town buffer required for residential against that comparable residential. But the commercial, we're providing 25 feet. And really maybe even a few feet more, and that is equivalent to what the current requirement would be.
Could you please clarify the connection, the fence, lack of fence, sidewalk, passageway, pedestrian, vehicle? What kind of connection will you have between the proposed development and the existing development?
Yeah, happy to. And to the, do you mean to the west along?
To the White House
plantation So
development.
We propose to have a fence. Pointed out, it's contained in the plan, but we've got a fence right there. And then that pedestrian access was a request that we received. We're happy to entertain removing it and just completely fencing that part of the property out. That's not a problem.
Yeah, I received emails from folks who are concerned about ATV traffic, but wanted to promote pedestrian and bicycle traffic. So I understand there's dilemma. Just wanted
Sure.
clarification. Thank you.
We don't want anyone going off-roading. I don't think anyone's going to go off-roading if pedestrian access was desired, which we received a comment. That's why we provided it. If it's not desired, we can fence it. That's no problem. If it is desired, we can form a way to either have a bollard, a 4x4 wooden, wooden structure of some sort to help make it skinnier, so that one couldn't have any kind of motor vehicle, if that's a hang-on.
It appears from the architectural rendering that the dwellings would have a two-car garage that opened onto the egress for the street. What would you have for additional parking? Like visitors and that sort of thing? Would there be?
For the residential,
Yeah, for the residential.
yeah, we've done our best to pull the sidewalk slightly toward the curb to allow for a little bit more overhang, but the intent would be every driveway could facilitate. For the rendering showing 2 cars, the workforce 20-foot wide unit, it may not support 2 in the driveway, it may only support 1, but the intent would be for the product you see, the 2-car garage, 2 cars in the garage, 2 cars out of the garage.
Okay.
And if that's a problem, if I don't know if there's an interest in left parking, but if that's a problem, they're happy to take some of the parking.
No, it seems to me that, if you've got limited amount of parking, you're probably gonna have visitors and so you'll need some additional parking. So
Mm.
that was my thought. In the commercial portion of the property, have you got an idea of who you're planning to put in there? Do you have any, what kind of, I know you kind of addressed that before.
At this time, we could really only comment on the uses, not necessarily the specific tenants. I'm from James Island, I'm a local, I was born here, grew up here, so local tenants would be most interesting, I'd say. Ultimately, we want to provide tenants and uses that the community would enjoy and use. As far as the uses goes, we try to be as consistent with what's currently allowed as possible. If a special exception for, let's say, beer and wine that was the recommendation, if that's an issue, we can entertain making that a special exception. We felt that having a restaurant without needing a special exception for beer and wine would be desirable to have a nice restaurant kind of there in the part of down, sort of downtown James Island. And then there was a comment about crime maybe being an issue in the adjacent community. And so we just felt maybe excluding gun sales could help with that, but we're not necessarily hot on excluding some of those uses. But ultimately, we see it being a mix of retail, some restaurants, some coffee, some medical office, some office.
And you could get an exception through the DCA if you wanted to have wine and beer in a restaurant, I think. Okay, anything else?
And I'll just maybe end on just maybe a final comment. I don't have to take any more Q&A. Again, 3 workshops. We welcome and really appreciate those that attended, their participation. We've done our best. We're not gonna be able to make everyone happy, so that hasn't quite been, perfection hasn't been the goal, but trying to get those sorts of the feedback, including how the road terminates, how the road will run it. Trees and everything above. So we appreciate all of the reviewing systems.
Thank you. Thanks for answering all the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, can I ask one or two things about the workshop?
You can ask him after the meeting, but this, it wouldn't be appropriate at the meeting.
You keep making the check.
At this time, I would like to make the motion that we approve the PUD as recommended by the staff. Do I have a second for comfort, just for discussion?
To discuss it.
To discuss it.
To discuss it.
Yes, to discuss it. Second.
We second?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, deciding.
Both of
I
us.
bet we-
Well, you can only do one.
Yeah, I do.
Open his mouth first. So.
Okay.
Okay, so, I guess my biggest concern is the density of the residential properties. It's, it's a lot. The units across the street there were 10 acres and they had almost as well, a few more had 30 residences. One of the nice things about the place across the street, they've got a big, like a park back behind it, which gives them a nice green space. What do y'all think?
My biggest current concern is that, although the engineering firm seems to have done a great job of trying to build a concept with the community, and offered 3 opportunities for those meetings, I don't feel, based on 500 petitions, that the developers have adequately addressed the concerns of the citizens, and I'm concerned about that.
This is impressive. This is impressive how detailed it is and how much work went into it. And I studied it. I've been to the property several times. I've been in your neighborhood several times. I've walked the woods. I've seen the trash and the things back there, and I don't know who's living there sometimes. So it's not, I'm just saying that because I'm not just doing it. I've been looking at it. I've been looking at it. And as I look at this, they seem to have covered all the questions that I would have. And some of the things about the flooding and all is we have flooding. I have flooding too. But that number of people that are unhappy is something that I'm impressed with. And I didn't come in here thinking that way. I thought maybe half of it you would be one way and half would be another way. So that's swaying what I'm thinking, and I got to think about it, I think. But the reason I'm saying that is just that it counts, and there is some good, the fact that the PSD is going to get this money is not a bad thing, because in theory, that's going to help all of us. Okay, that's not going to.
Please, this is closed.
It's going to be in a positive way. To have that money go back into the PSD. Again, we are living together. I'm not ready to vote. I'm not ready to vote. And that probably is swaying me more than anything else to see your feelings about it.
I feel that they met and exceeded all of the legal processes that were required. And I feel that a walkable community that's trying to preserve green space and prevent flooding and be open and welcome and serve James Island is desirable. I feel that local business is desirable. And I know that we need affordable housing in our town. I'm not sure this is affordable housing, but I think that it is more affordable than what would be low density zoned homes if they were to be developed there. I can think of worse things that could happen if this land were developed differently, a long list of worse things that could happen. So I want to say that there are some pros too. And I also, I feel pensive.
You're what?
Pensive, indecisive.
Yeah.
The way it is now, it's that we've got 1 point whatever acres that are zoned commercial, so we've got commercial property coming in. Regardless, and then there's, the residential. I talked to Zenny, and he had suggested that perhaps we should defer this and take, since we've only had a few days to look over all this.
And I have talked to other people who aren't necessarily in White House, but there are James Islanders about their thoughts on it. I haven't been lame about it. I've been concerned about it, so.
Well, we could do an amendment
We can table
and
discussion.
table it, right?
I think that's what we do. I move that we table.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're tabling.
Frustrating.
Please, let us finish our meeting. This, all we'll do is make a recommendation to town council. We'll vote on it, and we'll make a recommendation, and town council will have the final say. So, I think we're taking this very seriously and taking everybody's concerns very seriously, and want to be fair to the applicant. But I kind of think this is the best result for the money. Any comments from the commissioners? All right, if there's no other business, this meeting of the James Island Planning Commission stands adjourned.
That was hard. Thank
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time and for your diligence. And it is diligent. I respect.
Is this part of the record?
I don't know. I'm gonna see it.
It will be,
I want to see it. Hey, Bill.
but this wasn't submitted before the meeting, you're just, that's why I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
All your students have straight A's, right? I don't know, somebody, and, I'm not. You're not? Great. Oh, thank you. I know. You got these big guys, they're ground that is something too. And they're not, I mean,